I probably should have waited till the morning to record this video for better lighting, but I honestly couldn't contain myself. I'm so excited because something just crazy happened. I'm a practicing ICU physician. I've done a lot of medical and AI research, but what I experienced this night is insane. I think that's probably the first time an AI agent has autonomously done medical research. I came up with the hypothesis about 3 hours ago. I'll get into the full detail and the science of it. I came up with a hypothesis. I talked to Claude and I was like, hey, this is my hypothesis. I want to test it using this tools and this data set. Design me a study. It designed me the study. It gave me the Python script. I gave it to my OpenClaw, an autonomous agent, and it ran the whole study. Had a few debugging issues that it just solved on its own. It extracted all the data, normalized all the data, created 4 figures that are publication worthy, and we found a good hypothesis generation result from this study. It was an N of 10. It's a small study, but it was enough to prove that this concept works, that we can have AI agents autonomously doing medical research for us. And honestly, this is game changer because all the years that I've done medical research, the biggest barrier has been the data sets, normalizing them, figuring them out, and getting the different applications needed to make them work and make them make sense together, the statistical methods and the planning behind that. And all of that would just take weeks or months before you can get any actual research done. And this took me 2 hours. So let me show you exactly what my hypothesis was, the exact science. I break down the results, and I'll tell you what the next steps are as well, because I believe this is just the beginning of something beautiful. Let's start with my hypothesis. My hypothesis was that if you have wearable data, you would be able to predict a person's cognitive function. Meaning, with wearable information, heart rate variability, respiratory rate, temperature, can you predict how cognitively intact that person is or how well they'll perform? And so I use PhysioNet, actually. They actually have a data set called Wearable Exam Stress Data Set for predicting cognitive performance in real world settings. Now, this is only 10 students that they took, got them to write a midterm 1, midterm 2, and a final exam that was 3 hours long. And they had wearable sensors on these students that they recorded this data and obviously published this on PhysioNet. The data contained electrodermal activity, heart rate, blood volume, pulse, skin surface temperature, the interbeat interval, so between each heart rate, and accelerometer data. They recorded this during the 3 exams, and then they recorded the students' grades as a surrogate for their cognitive function. Basically, they wanted to see what the influence of stress is on their exam performance. Now, this is very interesting because they use an Empatica E4 wristband. So this is interesting because the data from this wristband from Empatica needs to be processed in a certain way, particularly the accelerometer data, to make it useful for statistical methods. The E4 recorded skin conduction, heart rate, body temperature, and movement accelerometer. They basically had a device for all the students. They're all recorded. And basically, you can get all of the CSV data just available in the zip file. And so basically, that's what I did. And I took this data set, I gave it to Claude, I gave it my hypothesis, and I gave it a couple study design options that I wanted to try. And I said, look, make me a research study that I can do, and I can give it to an AI agent to do it. Now, I'll post the prompt that I gave specifically after me and Claude had some back and forth about what study design will be ideal. And then this markdown file, I said, create it specifically for an AI agent. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Make it for an AI agent, have fail safe so that it knows what the limits are, and have success criteria, and then have it produce the results for me. And then it put all of this into a markdown file. This is the markdown file, and basically you can see I did not write a line of code in this. I did not write a single line of code. It's insane. Basically gave me a full mission brief. It basically tells the agent what the purpose is, what the deliverables are, including 3 or 4 publication quality figures, a result summary text with key statistics, and a CSV file of all the paired outcomes. It installs all the appropriate Python packages needed, matplotlib, scikit, scipy, everything needed. Honestly, I did not write any of this, which is the craziest part to me. I know some basic machine learning and coding, but not like to this level. So this is great because it basically wrote all of this for me. It analyzes all of the different parameters that are there, heart rate, IBI, and then the CSV files. All of this is broken down. I mean, I know some basic understanding of this code, but again, I briefly looked at it and I was like, okay, let me just see how this goes. So I basically just took this markdown, I gave it to OpenClaw, which is on my Mac Mini. And you can see it kind of describes some of the different features in the IBI, what that includes, like the root mean square of successive differences between heartbeats, SDNN, which is a standard deviation between heartbeats, which is commonly used, but it's a bit controversial to use that. LF and HF ratio, which is low frequency, high frequency ratio. It's a surrogate for sympathetic versus parasympathetic activation. If you have higher ratio, that's a more sympathetic activation. Again, this is not fully evidence-based, and there's still some growing evidence on this, but this is interesting. Mean skin temperature and the accelerometer. So these are all some of the variables that's extracted. It basically wrote the code to analyze all this data. And the key thing here is that we had a few different models that I wanted to test statistically. The first model was a simple correlation, just basically is there a direct correlation between higher heart rate variability and better grades, let's just say. Model 2 though was the more important one, which is a mixed effects model, it's a regression model. And this is the important one, because this is what this model basically says is that within each student and across their 3 exams, do the physiological changes predict the grade changes? So basically in this model, each student serves as their own physiologic control. And then model 3, statistical model, we did leave one subject out, cross-validation. But I mean, this is not so strong for this population because only 10 patients. If you train on 9 of them and you're testing on 1 patient, I mean, it's not going to create good results for generalizability, which I already expected from the study design. But the main thing was the mixed models effect. So now let's look at the results of what it came back with. So it basically ran the whole Python. It had a few bugging issues in terms of standardizing the data and extracting some of the other data from online, and it kind of solved it on its own. And then it put the results here in the results file, and I'm showing the results here. So the first result here, you can see this is correlations of physiological parameters and how strongly they correlate with different cognitive performances. And you can see that the stronger the correlation, negative or positive, the more likely it impacts your cognitive performance. So this was figure 1. This was figure 2. This is the mixed effects model. And you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different variables that are statistically significant to affect cognitive performance in these students. And they're the accelerometer magnitude, heart rate variability, high frequency, low frequency, the mean heart rate, which is the resting heart rate most of the time, and then your temperature slope, which is the change in temperature. The interesting thing is there's 5 of these models, or 5 of these variables that were statistically significant. But when I actually went back and looked at it, there was an issue. I don't know if you can pick it up from this image, but this figure told me that there was an issue in the analysis, which is when you look at the actual grade of their exams, it's 200. So this alerted me that this was actually done wrong, that there was some normalization issue with the data that needed to be fixed. And when I went to look back, the midterm 1 was out of 100, midterm 2 was out of 100, and the final exam was out of 200. So they had different scales, but the model didn't take that into account, neither did the Python script. So I went back to Claude, I gave it a prompt, I said, hey, this is what I found, can you update the script? It updated the script. I messaged my OpenClaw on Discord, I said, this is the update, this is the prompt, can you go fix that? It fixed it, and then it returned these results for me. And these are the updated results that are normalized, as you can see. And now you will see that the number of statistically significant variables is less. And now we only have 3. Here, the heart rate variation, which is a standard deviation between the normal beats, and then the heart rate variation, the LF-HF ratio. This is just a standard direct correlation. Not so strong. But this is the cool part, the mixed effects model. You can see that now we have 3 statistically significant effects, where, you know, the previous one where we didn't normalize it, there were 5, but here there's 3. And the key one that I actually really like is the temperature slope one, which is very interesting. It's got a decent coefficient. And what this tells me is that the change in your temperature slope will directly correlate your cognitive performance. And physiologically, what this means is that when you're in a stressful state, so you're in fight or flight, your sympathetic nervous system is activating, what this causes is vasoconstriction. And your skin is your biggest organ in the body. It causes vasoconstriction in the skin so that more of the blood flow can flow centrally. You can have more blood volume, and that improves your cardiac output, it improves your organ functioning and organ perfusion other than the skin. And so as your skin temperature reduces, the slope, meaning how rapid your temperature reduces on the skin, it can directly correlate to what your cognitive performance is. This is the main hypothesis that this study has validated for me. And I thought there was just a general question I started with, but now I have the specific variable that now I can use to do an actual study, a larger study, to then figure out if there is a strong correlation or not. Now, if we look at the direct model prediction, I mean, this is not going to be good because we have 10 patients. We're not going to be able to generalize to a large population. I already kind of knew this going into it. So this, I don't really worry about it too much. Again, these are the normalized scores that it actually did, the graded normalization scores, and then you have the CSV files and the results summary text. Now, this is incredible to me, honestly, that I went from an idea, a hypothesis, I got the data, I got the scripts and the agent, I guess, manual on how to do this, gave it to an agent, and it just ran it on its own in a couple of hours. And within a couple of hours, I was able to validate my medical hypothesis. And now I can take this evidence. Now I know that the slope of your temperature change plus your baseline heart rate are direct predictors of cognitive performance. Now, I can't say that very strongly because this is only an N of 10, but this is a hypothesis generation study, which means that I have now generated a new hypothesis that I can test on a larger data set. So I think this is fantastic, and this really blew my mind away. So I had to make the video. This is literally 3 a.m. right now. I'm making this video because I'm so excited that I'm able to do this as a single person with barely any cost, like maybe a few dollars for API costs, and that's it. So the key thing here was the hypothesis in the study. The hypothesis was actually the human, so I came up with the hypothesis. And the study designs and the statistical modeling was a collaborative effort between me and Claude. And the actual execution and performance of all the statistical analysis and production of these figures and the results was all autonomous, was all done by an AI agent. And that literally just blows my mind that that's possible now. So I'm really excited because I'm curious to see how far I can take this. Is this a landmark study in medicine? No. Does this give me a good hypothesis to now take it to the next level and see how far I can push autonomous research? Yes. Is my dream to run my own medical AI research lab? Yes. And is this what I'm going to start to build on? 100%. So follow along because I'm going to be testing more and more bigger samples, bigger hypotheses, bigger data sets. And really, the bottleneck in medical research has never been the idea. It's always been the execution and sometimes the orchestration of the data. So I think with a lot of things converging now, we will be able to generate medical hypotheses, medical research studies at scale so rapidly. And I think this is a beautiful time to be alive. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That'd be really helpful. And I'm going to keep sharing my journey both on Instagram and as well as YouTube. So make sure you follow along to see where this goes. Thank you.